Big elections happening in November. It's looking like, because there's so many candidates running, we may actually go all the way till November. But who knows? Maybe one of these candidates will, in fact, get 50% plus one, and they will make it out, and they will have a candidate as of May. But the best way you can tell is to be able to know their story. And so that's the purpose of having our coffee here at the Waffle Hut, and we are doing our best to try and have a little conversation so that we know the people behind the titles, the people behind the candidates. We want to tell their story. We want to make sure that we know what they stand for, what they're all about, and we're trying to tell their story of what's happening here in Klamath Falls. I'm Christopher German, and without further ado, please let me introduce you to Sean Ferns. He is the candidate for sheriff. And Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you very much.
So good to have you here today. Thank you for coming down.
Yes, sir.
So tell me, you were one of the latter candidates to join the sheriff race. What inspired you to become sheriff?
I've had multiple phone calls from several individuals through our community to run for sheriff. They felt that I would be a very good candidate for that position and the best person for that position. After getting multiple phone calls from deputies, from civilians, all the way up to commissioners and judges, I really sat and prayed on it with my wife. We came to the conclusion to do this, not just me, myself, as a person, but as a family, my wife, and all four of my kids. We've included my mother, who lives out of town, and my mother-in-law who lives with us. Mm-hmm. So we really thought about it, and we felt it was a good decision to do this, and it would be best for our community and the families of our community to do this.
Well, good on you then. Thank you for doing it. So tell me, what is your goal for the sheriff's office? What do you think needs to happen? It's a beleaguered office. We've had coming off a year of some major ethics complaints and all kinds of different trials and tribulations that have happened in the sheriff's office. What is your goal for the sheriff's office?
My goal is to make sure that place is a family-run business. I worked there for 15 years before 2011 when I left there to go to city police. And when I was working there, it was the best place to work. I had so much fun. I looked forward to going to work every single day. When I'd go to bed at night, I'd think about what I get to do the next day. And it wasn't going beating up people or arresting people, but it was solving crimes and putting individuals in custody for the crimes that they did commit and getting property back, holding people accountable for their actions. But the most important was getting property back for the elder or anybody who was a victim, and just seeing their eyes light up. It was a great thing. Yeah. But it was a family atmosphere, and it's not that way anymore, unfortunately. Whatever I needed, my sheriff, my captains, my sergeants, they got it for me. If something wasn't right, somebody in a higher position stepped up, stood up, and made it right.
Well, then tell me about this. What do you think needs to happen? What are the nuts and bolts of how we're going to get the sheriff's office to be a properly functioning organization once again?
I think we need to start with the internal part, with the guys and girls that are working on the road. Not only that, you got the guys and girls that are in the jail. Everybody forgets about them, but they're a big asset to our community and to that department. But we got to build the trust with them. All right. We also need to build the trust with our community. Right now, nobody believes in the sheriff's office. Nobody wants the sheriff's office around. They don't, the patrol division. A lot of the people I talk to, they don't believe that they're going to get a good investigation or an investigation on any crime that they call in. So they don't even bother calling in, which is unfortunate. Any and every crime that occurs, they should be getting a face-to-face contact with a deputy and a report written and a good investigation completed.
Well, that comes to be a big challenge, I think, when you talk about, we got 6,200 miles of county to cover at all times. We have a very small police force trying to govern that whole area there. How can we effectively cover that kind of area with the limited resources that the sheriff's office has?
Well, the limited resources we have is because of the way the sheriff's office is being ran right now. Okay. And it's not just the sheriff, but it's from the sheriff down. We can't just blame the sheriff for everything that's going on. All right. So once we get the personnel staffing back up, the guys and girls of our community are going to get sufficient resources to their calls, whether it's an evidence tech or it's a patrol deputy, or a dog catcher. Mm-hmm. The other problem that we're having too is our civil patrol. All right. Our civil division is not able to serve all the civil papers that's mandated by the state that the sheriff does. Mm-hmm. So we need to build that division back up too. Uh-huh. And unfortunately, We're not there because of manpower.
Wow.
People want to leave for better wages or better atmosphere. When I worked there, we didn't have the great wages, but it didn't matter to me.
Morale was better.
Morale was high. I cannot explain how good it was and how well we had it there. I started in Burkhart. I worked there through Evinger, and then timber receipts went away and people were going to get laid off. So I felt it was probably in the best interest of my family to go to the city police. So I left. So,
well, that's a good point that you bring up, though, is the resources. Derek DeGrooten in a Board of Commission meeting a couple weeks ago said, we just don't have the revenues coming into this county to be able to do the servicing that needs to be done and to support all the services. There's going to be, I think, for whoever becomes the sheriff, there's going to have to be some kind of, shall I say, fundraising mechanism in place. They're going to have to get the funding to come into this department to make the department do what it needs to do.
Yes.
You can't rely on the Board of Commissioners to do that. They've got all the other stuff they're trying to do. So it's going to be the sheriff's going to be the point person, I think, in a lot of ways, to finding the funding resources to make everything happen. There are, in theory, a bunch of grant monies to come in there and all that kinds of other stuff. What are your thoughts on all that?
I believe there's a lot of money out there. The grants. I've already got a team of individuals that are retired, and they're excellent grant writers. They've received hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants, if not millions of dollars in grants. My plan is to bring them as a volunteer and start writing grants, looking for grants, so we can offset stuff in our budget, so we can appropriate money up, towards our guys and girls. One of our candidates says that he's the only one that's not going to raise taxes. I've never said anything about raising taxes in our community. That's not my choice. That's the people's choice. If they want, 100%, if not additional employees, we're probably going to have to raise taxes or go to the people and say, hey, we are willing to put all these people on board, but we need a little bit from you guys. Past practice with the Klamath County is that's never gone through. That never has occurred because nobody wants it. So I'm not counting on it. So I'm going to go out for grants. There's COP grants out there. We've had COP grants years and years ago under Mr. President Clinton, and we hired a bunch of guys. I think it was 10 to 15 guys that were hired under that COP grant. And when they came up to be paid by the county, we didn't have the money to pay it back. So you have to be extremely careful with that kind of stuff, because if you don't have money to pay it back, we're going to be hurting big time. Yeah. Then we're going to be laying a lot of people off. So you've got to be very cautious. I spent 3 years on the city budget committee when 2009 hit. The timber receipts were going away. The county was in shortfall. We voted as a city to give the county $700,000 year after year so we can keep the jail open. That is extremely important. So with that said, we have to come together with other agencies, Oregon State Police, the Klamath Falls City Police. Everybody needs to come together to work together so we can make this work and happen safely for everybody.
What are your thoughts on the idea to combine the Klamath Falls City Police with the Sheriff's Department and with this massive unified force together to protect the county? What are your thoughts on that?
That again, I think would be up to the city, not the city, but the people of Klamath County. If that's what they want to do, the unfortunate thing is one's got to give up their authority. You can only have one person in charge of it. Who's that going to be? It's the sheriff. He's the ultimate authority figure in Klamath County.
That's pretty succinct answer. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I've been asking this of the sheriff's candidates particularly because I think, I don't know if you caught the Bates interview that I did with the Bates family out in Chiloquin.
No, I did not.
The gentleman was shot in his front steps by a assailant. She went to prison late last year. But what the family said in that interview was that the response time was the issue. If the people had gotten there in a more timely fashion, they could have saved their brother. It's not like that was an isolated incident either, because we had the gun incident last fall where the guy was wandering through town with a shotgun. We've had numerous people go missing from Chiloquin. Chiloquin, for 700 people, is one of the most dangerous communities in Oregon. And it's really not a place where we can really say these people are causing their problem, but they're also not getting the support that they need to stop the problem. Mm-hmm. What do you think is the solution for Chiloquin?
Well, everybody's saying rural patrol team, resident deputies. You know, a resident deputy would be great. You know, we've had resident deputies in the past, years ago. And then we went away from a resident deputy in the Chiloquin area, and we staffed it from an individual from town, down here in the South Suburbs area. You know, as long as they're getting policing and patrol, but the nice thing about that too, though, is that we're going to need the support from the people in Chiloquin, because when we put a deputy up there in that area and they start taking action on individuals, we need the support from the people to back him up. That way it can continue. And I'm not talking financial. You know, pat him on the back instead of calling and complaint after complaint, because he's doing his job. But if we got the support from the people and we start putting more people up in that area, I think the turnaround will be a lot different than what it is right now. You know, can we say that if we had a deputy up there would have saved the individual's life? I don't know, because I don't know the case. It may have, it may not have. You know, we can't second guess it now.
Well, it was a heartbreaking story, and
Yeah,
they came in
are.
and we talked with all the sisters of the brother, and it was like, you know, they said, we just want to make sure this never happens again.
Yeah,
And,
nobody wants that stuff to happen.
yeah, and it was a heartbreaking story, because the guy didn't even know the woman that got shot. He was familiar with her. She knew him from town, and she showed up one night, 3 o'clock in the morning, and she shot him several times. Shot somebody in the house as well. It was just a horrible event, and the family is just, they're just awestruck. I mean, they just don't know what to do to stop these problems there.
Yeah.
So I think it's certainly something we need to put on the to-do list for
most definitely.
not just the sheriff community, but also for the county. We need to figure out what's happening in Chiloquin and make that place a safer place.
We do, but it's not just Chiloquin. You got East County, the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, everybody forgets about East County, plus further north. And I mean, we got Keno. We can't forget about those areas. I mean, like I said, we used to have resident deputies, and because of the COPS grant, that all went away. And then we started running beats. I mean, I remember when I first started working at the sheriff's office in 1996, and when I came to patrol in 99, 98, we all had beats. You know, the second digit of our call sign was the area that we were working that day. So I'd go out in Keno. That would be my area. We're not going to be able to hire resident deputies right away. It's going to take quite a while because of all the positions that are open. Not only that, you got to get somebody that's trained up. The other problem is you just can't go out and say, you are now working in the Chiloquin area. You're going to live there. You're a resident deputy. You can't do that. All right. So we have to hire specifically for that position to get individuals to come in here and want to take that position and go and work in that area. So until then, I think we need to run beats. Just like I did when I was in the city police. Divided our county up into sections, and now you're working Chiloquin area today, or you're working East County, or you're working West County, instead of everybody being in the south suburbs. The other nice thing is that I want to come in, excuse me, I want to come in and get away from typing our reports. We used to dictate reports. All right, I remember driving to calls, talking to a little digital recorder on my report. Therefore, I didn't have to go back to the city or to the sheriff's office and type it all up for 2, 3, 4 hours. Because typing reports takes quite a while. If we can hire a transcriptionist to type up our reports, that'll free up our guys from being in the office, and they can be out on the field. You know, they may not be working on a call, but if they're out there being seen and they're visible, people know they're out there, so they're not going to be doing things like they have been.
That seems to be a theme. I've talked with a number of the sheriff candidates that, you know, they really need to be invested in a community. They need to be part of that community. And I remember back in the old days, you know, officer, whatever his name was, he was the guy that walked the streets, and everybody knew him. And he sat there at the hair cutting place, and he would get his, you know, he talked to the people, and he was part of the community. That seems to be a model that would work really well, especially in these smaller rural communities where everybody knows each other.
Yes.
And we have a deputy there that is part of that community. Should that be a top priority for the coming years ahead?
I believe it should. I believe it should. But I don't think this should be just as a working deputy. I think it needs to be somebody off duty, working and, you know, with the kids, mentoring them around. Because, you know, I'm not saying the adults are lost or anything and we need to go back to the kids, but we need to go to the kids and educate them. In the schools, when I was growing up, we had a lot of drug education because they wanted us to stay away from drugs when we got older. That's all gone away. All right. I remember the cop coming in, it was a detective, with drugs when I was super young. We need to bring that back into the schools and educate our kids, not just on drugs, but but on vaping and smoking and the tobacco use and drinking, to include the homeless, being homeless, educate them on that. The county has started a homeless task force. I joined it as a civilian because I just retired. July 1st was my first day of retirement. And I joined it as a civilian because of all these homeless individuals in this community. We need to figure out what's going on, why it's going on, and we need to get ahead of it. Where do we need to do that? We need to start with the kids. We need to educate them on being homeless and how it is and what can they do to prevent it. Nobody's doing that.
Well, it seems to me the sheriff's office could be in a lot of ways the first line of defense for the homeless. For protecting them as well as stopping the criminality that's happening.
Yes.
The sheriff's office is really, they're smack dab in all the different places that people live in this county and all the different things that they're doing. The sheriff's office is the first line of defense.
It is. And there, not just our county. There's a lot of counties in our state that has homeless issues. Some of those counties have started a team for the homeless, where they're interacting with the homeless every day. All right, on top of taking their calls. It would be great to get somebody from the city, the state, and the county to be able to go in there and start interacting with these individuals. All right, because who's better if something happens and they start describing, well, these individuals that are working with the homeless can figure it out.
They'll know the people.
Yeah, they do know the people.
We all know the people.
No.
You see the same faces walking down the street every day.
You do.
You do know.
Yes. But the homeless will start trusting them more too. It's like the kids. I've done some time in the schools as a school resource officer. When I went into the schools, there was not a resource officer before me for many years. They didn't trust me. The ones that knew me trusted me, but the ones that didn't know me did not trust me.
Yeah.
I had kids coming up behind me doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and they got caught by a teacher. When I had to talk, and guess what? I built a relationship with that individual, and I couldn't get them out of my office because they liked me so much and they trusted me. Therefore, they were starting to bring information to me when I needed to know something.
Yeah.
So they are a great resource, but you got to start with trust with those kids and the homeless.
Well, speaking of trust, there is a lack of trust, I think, in the general populace of this county. Most of the people in this county don't feel that the Board of Commissioners is particularly responsive to their needs. Certainly in the city here, there's an issue with responsiveness from the elected officials. That's got to make the sheriff's job utterly that much more difficult, because the people around here just don't have the faith in the government that is here to protect them anymore. How can you help? How can you address that? That's a big challenge, I think.
Well, any politician, all right, they always tell you they want to give you the world, and they're going to give you the world when they're going to be elected. All right, I've said a few things that I want to implement and I want to do. All right, the command staff that I'm going to have, we are going to set up a community-based team. All right, several individuals from our community. All right, nobody else is talking about doing this, and that task force or that group is going to hold me and my office accountable for what we are doing and what we said we were going to do and what we haven't done. Therefore, then we are going to come to the community, and have forums with the North County, the East County, the West County residents, so they don't have to drive very far. All right, and let them know what's going on. Unfortunately, I don't feel our sheriff's office, really, the city police does it somewhat, but not a lot. They don't inform the people of our community what's going on, how it's going. If they have a complaint, a lot of times they don't get calls back with the solutions as far as what has occurred with their complaints. I think we need to be transparent with everybody in the community, not just the ones who call and complain, but everybody that wants an answer, and do it, and we give the answer before they even ask for it. I think they'll, once we start getting that role, and they start seeing how we're going along, and they start seeing individuals showing up to calls like we said that they were going to, they're going to start building that trust. Then not just showing up for calls, but doing a proper investigation.
It's funny because when I was telling people I was going to interview you today, everybody knows your name. You're well known in this community. And I think pretty much. I don't know,
is that a good thing?
Well, it's not a bad. It can't be a bad thing just to be known. And the thing is that it's the same way with all the sheriff's candidates. Everybody is known in this community. We all know each other in this community.
We do.
Whether by face, whether by name, whatever it is, we have a familiarity in this community. But for some reason, we're all just so split up, and we're all there, us versus them. Yeah. When we all live next to each other. It's this tiny little community in a really big place. but we've all seen the same faces day in, day in, day out, right?
Yes.
So I don't think you're going to fix this. It's an observation I'm just making. And we're actually coming up against time here. So before I shove you out of here and I force you on your way, can you tell people, if they want to get involved in your campaign, how can they do so?
So we have the Facebook page. I've got an amazing team that's helping me out with all the social media stuff, and because I'm so busy. We got Facebook going on. You know, if you want to donate, we would love to have the donations and stuff. If you just want to call and write something on it and what we've done to them in the past or what we can do, write it up. My phone number's out there too. If you have any concerns, call me. I will address you personally. I'll meet you for coffee. I'll give you a phone call, whatever you want. I had a young man that I received a phone call from Chiloquin wanting all kinds of signs. I said, I know your last name. And he told me. It was like, I did an investigation on him. And guess what? He's turned his life around, and he thanked me for it.
That's good.
You know, I'm not saying, I don't think I'm super well known in this community, all right? But I'm going to be super honest with anybody and everybody. You know, if you look at my training, I've got over 3,500 hours of training. I'm well diverse in law enforcement. I think if anybody's going to go in there and be able to lead that agency from the front, that's me. Where the other individuals, they don't have so much expertise in certain areas where they can't lead from the front, and I can. And I am so looking forward to it. More and more we get closer to this, I'm tickled pink. I've got so much energy that I want to give to this community. I've yet to stop giving to this community. You know, I've mentored kids. I've coached all kinds of stuff for years and years. I just love it. I love our community, and I want to do what I can for our community and the people in it.
Well, there we go. Thank you, sir, for being here. I want to give you a hand. Appreciate
Pleasure,
you
sir.
being here. And thank you for watching, because without these conversations, we just don't know who to vote for, do we? So that's the best part about this particular format that we're doing here, is we really and I think we covered some really good subjects today, don't you, sir?
I think so, yes.
I think we really did. And that's the way we're going to get to this, folks, is having the conversations, especially over a cup of coffee at the Waffle Hut.
Yeah.
Cheers, sir.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. We're going to do this, we have another episode this week. We're going to be talking with Ryan Caber, I think it is, later this week. And we'll have these episodes for you every week until we talk to all candidates. So if you know a candidate needs to get in here and talk to me, tell them, call them, tell them to get in here, and we'll talk to them, and we'll find out about them as well. I'm Christopher German for Coffee with the Candidates. This is brought to you by the Sunshine News. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.